Today we'll be making a large batch of Ofe-Akwu that can serve 35 to 40 people. So this is 3 pintas of akwu that we're going to be processing. You make sure your akwu is fresh, your palm kernel is fresh and not stale, and you boil it till it's soft. Then I pound it with this mortar. You mustn't have a food processor, although a food processor would make things easier and faster. So after pounding to a pulp, I like to process my akwu with hot water, boiling hot water. Because I use hot water, I don't use my hands. I make use of a spoon and stir properly. I wash the akwu in batches just to ensure that it's not runny. Now this akwu is quite big because it's 3 pintas. The akwu I'm using has enough oil in it. That's why it's hard to go down. That means I'd wash it 3 times. Processing akwu is not a job for slay queens, so you're going to get a little dirty. I mean, there are going to be some stains. Yes, so I prefer using the floor sometimes since I'm pounding. I put a fresh batch of hot water. This is what it looks like. You see, this is the second helping of water. After processing it, you see what the akwu looks like now. I use the same water I used to wash the first batch to process the second and the third, just like that. The 3 pintas of akwu was able to get me 1 giant sized pot and 1 medium pot. You can see what the consistency is like. So because I like keeping things real, this is actually the amount of meat that I'm making use of. Goat meat, 1 for chicken, and 1 giant size dry fish. I like boiling my meat with fresh pepper. For Ofe-Akwu, you have to be mindful of the quantity of water you use. You need the broth, but at the same time, you need it to be as condensed as possible so it doesn't make your Ofe-Akwu runny. So I'll just give us a rundown through the natural spices that we'll be making use of. The first is what we call ehuru. I put in the botanical names to make it easier for us to get or to replicate this same dish wherever we are at. This is ehu seed, similar to ehuru. Then this is urema. This is a game changer for your nsala, for your pepper soup, for your Ofe-Akwu, just name it. It has this fragrant aroma and sweet peppery taste. I don't know how to describe it really. So this is jangsang, or whatever you prefer to call it. This is the quantity I used for this dish. You can also use it to prepare jollof rice. So this is our control onions, also good for jollof rice and stew as well. Then this is our ogiri okpei. Basically, we have like 2 to 3 types of okpei or ogiri. This is ogiri okpei, fermented castor seeds, locust beans. So here we have our crayfish. Crayfish is actually an interesting topic because it's called crayfish in Nigeria, but I do know that outside Nigeria it's called by different names, which is why I try to add the actual name, which is baby shrimp, as well as the botanical name to make it easier for you to find and replicate this dish. So this is our red onions. I love using red onions both as a thickener and as a flavor enhancer. I soak it in hot water to marinate it, sort of get the taste out, then pound or blend till rough to make it serve as a thickener. Pour it into the akwu while it's still boiling at the initial stage, and save the water for when the meal is almost ready and pour it in. So this is shombo, cayenne pepper blended. I use this as a thickener for Ofe-Akwu as well. I put it in when it's boiling. It gives additional color to the dish. Just make sure you try to take the seeds out. It also has its own flavor, which it adds to Ofe-Akwu, which you may or may not like. So you might have to try it out to see what you actually want or what works for you. But it's good. It gives the Ofe-Akwu a punch of color as well as thickening as well. This is my maxi size dry fish. It's quite big. I wash it thoroughly with salt and boil this with my chicken and goat meat. Just this one piece of dry fish was what I made use of. Then these are my scent leaves, my ephedrine leaves, my African basil leaves, whatever you want to call it in Chong. So I got these leaves, scent leaves, and my fresh akwu, of course. Can you see how fresh it is if your akwu is not fresh, if it's stale, if it's already fermenting, then definitely it's going to affect the taste of your dish, no matter how well you cook it. So you can see the quantity I got after pounding it. So I began to wash thoroughly in batches, like I earlier said, being mindful of the water I used. I washed this 3 times because this apple has a lot of oil in it, which was quite good for me. Normally I wash twice, but you can see what it looked like at the end of the first washing, how thick it was to pass through the colander. So I had to wash it 3 times carefully, using the same water to wash all 3 batches of akwu to ensure that it wasn't runny. As you process, you see how it changes. Can you see the difference in the color and the lusciousness of the palm before it was washed, and how thin the fibers look after much of the oil has been taken out? So here we have our processed palm oil liquid or palm kernel liquid, whatever, simmering, about to simmer in the pot. I'm stirring this so that you can see what it looks like, what the consistency is like. Once it begins to boil, I added my shombo and my onion, so it begins to boil alongside. By the time the meal is ready, you won't find traces of it. I pound all my nuts, crayfish, pound everything together with my mortar. Yes. After about 45 minutes of boiling, the raw taste of the akwu is gone and the akwu broth has taken. So this is what my Ofe-Akwu looks like. The true test of the quality of your Ofe-Akwu is not just how it looks in the bowl plate, but how it looks when it's sitting on top of your rice. Does it float atop or does it sink on the